Earth again. Not because Earth was cruel, not because Earth was ruthless, but because Earth's patience was vast and its vengeance infinite. The lesson burned into the stars. In the centuries that followed, the ruins of the Dominion remained untouched. No species dared claim them. They became a warning, a monument to human retaliation. Other civilizations built shrines of fear around the phrase. They laughed at human grief, then they faced human rage. And across the galaxy, whenever arrogance began to rise, whenever another species considered striking at humanity, the warning was whispered again and again. Do not mistake silence for weakness. Do not mistake patience for fear. Do not mistake grief for surrender. For when Earth rises in rage, nothing survives. The stars above Yalara colony burned with serene indifference when the attack began. The Chirac Dominion descended not as conquerors but as butchers, their warships slicing through the colony's defense grid as if it were paper. Yalara was a garden world, filled with scientists, children and families who had chosen peace over war. Its skis were not meant for fire, but fire came. The Chirac did not demand surrender. They did not negotiate. They unleashed plasma lances into the atmosphere, cracking continents and boiling seas. They hunted down fleeing civilian transports, laughing as their beams tore through hulls filled with the desperate and the innocent. On the surface, as screams echoed in the crumbling arcologies, Chirac officers transmitted their broadcasts galaxy-wide, mocking, sneering, glorifying the massacre as a lesson. This is the price of human arrogance, their leader spat, his mandibles clicking in smug rhythm. Your grief is our triumph. Your tears are our entertainment. When the killing was done, when only ash and orbital wreckage remained, the Chirac gathered in their victory halls. They drank, they jeered, they replayed the transmissions of human children begging for help before being silenced forever. To them, it was not a war crime, it was comedy. They reveled in grief, believing humanity too fractured, too restrained, too civilized to ever respond with equal cruelty. But they forgot something. They mistook patience for weakness, and they laughed at the one thing humanity never forgives, the slaughter of its own. Arrogance in the stars. The galaxy knew the Chirac were predators. For centuries, they had preyed upon weaker races, carving empires from blood and wreckage. Their doctrine was simple: mockery, domination, humiliation. They claimed no species had ever truly opposed them. Around their banquet tables, they joked about the humans. They laughed at how Earth sent envoys instead of warlords. They mocked how humans built hospitals in conquered sectors instead of execution camps. They called humanity the grieving race, always mourning the fallen, always seeking peace rather than vengeance. And so, when the massacre of Yalara was complete, the Chirac broadcast their message to every world. See how they weep. See how they crumble. This is what it means to challenge us. The galaxy believed them. Other species lowered their voices when speaking of humanity, fearing they would be the next target. Some pitied Earth, whispering that the humans had grown soft, that their days of warriors and conquerors were long past. But those who knew humans, truly knew them, felt only dread. They remembered Earth's old wars. They remembered that humans carried entire histories carved in fire and vengeance. They remembered that grief was never the end of a human story. It was the spark. The silence before the storm. At first, Earth said nothing. No proclamations. No retaliation fleets rushing into the void. The Chirac took this silence as proof of their supremacy. They continued mocking transmissions, songs sung over the screams of Yalara, poems about human weakness. But within that silence, Earth moved, not with shouts but with steel, not with threats but with preparation. Deep in the Sol system, shipyards awoke from dormancy. Dreadnought frames, long thought to be ceremonial relics of the past wars, were reactivated. Factories that once produced trade freighters were converted into foundries of death. Old alliances were called upon, and every one of them answered. In the dark, intelligence networks spread through the stars. Tirok logistics were mapped. Their colonies were catalogued. Their fleets, their stations, their secret fortresses, all marked, all measured. Every laugh they had at human grief only wrote their name deeper into the list of targets. And when the silence finally broke, it came not as a whisper, but as a warning carried across every channel of known space. This is Earth Command. To the Tirok Dominion, you have slaughtered our people, mocked our grief, and spat upon our mercy. There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. Retribution comes. The galaxy trembled. The shattering of suns. When Earth's armadas emerged, they did not crawl timidly into battle. They erupted like storms from the void, entire fleets slipping from hyperspace in precise formations, surrounding Tirok strongholds before alarms even finished sounding. The Tirok expected a token retaliation, a few ships perhaps, a symbolic strike. What they faced instead were fleets so vast they blotted out stars, dreadnoughts whose hulls gleamed like iron monoliths of judgment. On Garrow Station, the first to fall, Tirok soldiers laughed when the scanners registered human arrivals. They stopped laughing when the station's outer defenses were erased in a single coordinated volley. They stopped laughing when Earth soldiers boarded, moving with the cold precision of executioners. No speeches, no hesitation, just silence and steel, every step echoing like a death knell through the station's corridors. Every Tirok fleet that rose to meet humanity's vengeance was shattered. Every system that once mocked human tears was burned clean of their presence. Worlds that had lived under Tirok domination for centuries suddenly saw skies filled with the thunder of Earth's retribution. The galaxy watched as the impossible unfolded. The predators who once mocked grief were now running, scrambling, begging for aid. The black tide of retribution. But it was not just warships that carried the weight of Earth's rage. It was soldiers. It was operatives. It was men and women whose families had died screaming on Yalara. When human boots struck Tirok soil, they brought storms with them. Armored divisions advanced like an iron tide, unstoppable, unflinching. Orbital strikes shattered fortresses before the first human soldier even stepped onto the ground. Drones swarmed through the skies, hunting down stragglers with merciless precision. In one campaign, the Tirok attempted to rally on their throne world, Cardor, where their High Council jeered at humanity's approach. They called the humans mourners in armor. They expected resistance, perhaps even defeat. What came instead was annihilation. Human fleets cut through their defenses like blades through glass. The skies of Cardor burned red with falling cities, while human war machines thundered across their soil. The Tirok leaders who once mocked grief found themselves dragged from their palaces, their final screams echoing across the same channels where they once laughed at human sorrow. It was not war, it was not conquest, it was judgment. The silence after Ray. And then, as suddenly as it began, it ended. The Tirok Dominion was no more. Their fleets lay broken, their worlds shattered, their voices silent. In the galaxy's void, silence spread. Planets that once cowered beneath Tirok dominance whispered to each other, "Never provoke Earth again." The Tirok had mocked grief, believing it weakness. They had feasted on tears, thinking them powerless. But they had learned the oldest truth carved into humanity's soul: grief does not break humans, it forges them. And when forged grief turns into rage, there is no force in the stars that can withstand it. The galaxy did not forget Yalera, nor did it forget the vengeance that followed. When children on distant worlds asked why no one dared strike Earth again, their elders whispered, because they laughed at human grief, and then they faced human rage.